For joining in at the MBA today. My name is Jay Tamborino. We're going to be talking a little bit about AI and kind of some of my favorite authors. So just a question out there. Anybody have a favorite science fiction author that they kind of turn to all the time? And especially with AI right now, we're kind of generating kind of more talk, and especially around the industry, there's more talk on, how advanced AI is going to get. And I'm going to kind of dispel some of the myths around AI today. It's really not, we're not really all that close to having a Skynet situation. Anybody remembers Terminator 3? I don't know, just kind of going back. I mean, one of my favorite authors was Douglas Adams, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and just that whole weird concept of truly a computer generating everything that we know of, and being controlled by mice had its impact too. But between that and 2001: A Space Odyssey, I mean, these books were written. Well, Douglas Clark came out in what, 77-ish. HAL. Space Odyssey was what, technically before I was born. So that's refreshing. But as we're talking about all this was back in the 50s, into the 60s, into the 70s. And we didn't really have a good understanding of how AI was. The computer, everybody kind of assumed the computer were going to kind of take over the world. And it took, honestly, 60 years. And they're still not taking over the world. They can't do anything without our interaction. So the distance to AI taking over anything is really about the same time frame that we were looking at from its first conception. Now, Alan Turing, anybody that was a computer science major in college studied Alan Turing. He's kind of the godfather of artificial intelligence, before it was even coined artificial intelligence. And he had a ton to say on it back in the early 60s. And this is the early days of computers too. So, the computing power that we had back then is nothing compared to the cell phones that we have now, which we're going to talk a little bit about just because I have a couple stories on those that are kind of entertaining. But really, artificial intelligence, we're just starting in. Okay, let's take a step back. Artificial intelligence is based on the DIKW model. Anybody, show of hands, anybody know what the DIKW is? No, not seeing anything. But DIKW is kind of the pyramid model on which artificial intelligence could be based on. It's a kind of a theory. It's a theory that it's the base of the pyramid is data. We've had data since the start, long before we even had computers. We've had data. The I piece of it is the intelligence, and that's what within the last 20 really years, that's how we've been able to distinguish, okay, we have this data, now how are we going to start gleaming information from it? We've had that with business analytics. We've had that with, different ways of sorting through our core systems or any other data that we're collecting on our customers, to be able to maybe gain some intelligence from it. Now, ironically, that is the next step in the pyramid, is having it automatically define that intelligence level. So it's okay, we have the data, we have maybe the interpretive side of it. Now we have to gain the knowledge piece. The knowledge piece can now be replicated, and that's in the stage of AI that we're in now. So we can tell it what we want to get out of it, and it will continue to run scenarios for us. It doesn't really give us the wisdom piece. The wisdom is the last piece of it, and wisdom and understanding. And it's we can fake the wisdom side of it, and we can't fake the understanding side. A computer will, at this stage of the game, will never know or be able to ask the question, why? Why are we getting this information? Why are you asking for this information? What do we want to do with it? So that's the model itself, and we're just touching the early stages of that knowledge piece. We can create routines that continually scan and are doing stuff, but it's not really true knowledge at this point. So we're a long way from having HAL take over our spaceship. So I guess I'm not too concerned about it in the immediate future. Now, on the same note, it wasn't that long ago where we could use, you know, Google's only been around for 25 years. So the early stages of Google is, hey, we're going to ask Google the question, and it's going to give back a whole bunch of websites that maybe could answer that question for us and allows us to choose what we're doing. Well, within the last 7, 8 years, if you ask Google a question, it will try to answer it on its own based on its findings within its Google search. That's just touching the very, very bottom of that K knowledge. It's that knowledge piece. So we're a long way from even Google being able to say, yeah, here's my interpretation of it. Now, there are engines that are out there that will try to do that for you. And they're all based on LLMs. LLM is a large language model, and that's really all it stands for, but they only do very, very specific things. So if you ask, you know, ChatGPT or Copilot or Google or, I mean, any of these engines, they all run separate LLMs at this point. So there's not really a combined one. So you'll get kind of different results, and that's kind of where it starts making stuff up. If anybody goes down that AI rabbit hole and is just bored some night and you just keep asking questions, you'll kind of start seeing a repeat pattern in the answers. But that's kind of where we're at with the whole overall scheme right now. We're not to the point where, you know, anybody's going to be really worried about a machine taking over or something not working because this AI is for some reason offline. Things can stop, things can break, but we're nowhere near a computer trying to control anything. Unless we let it, but you know, don't let it. That's not why we're put on this earth, is to let a computer control us. So with that, I mean, there's certain things that AI is doing right now. And to kind of understand what AI can do and what it can't do, you kind of have to break it down into maybe two, actually probably 3 or 4 buckets, but basically 2 buckets. There's the narrow AI, which we have, that's out there. It's doing a specific thing or looking for a specific thing. Think of it as fraud detection stuff or maybe compliance, as long as it's looking for keywords, things along that line, it can be used for that. And then there's general AI. General AI is what we consider true artificial intelligence, and that does not exist as far as I know. Knock on some wood, the government might be watching, and I don't have a tinfoil hat on, but we don't think it exists yet. We think we're a long way from that. So with that, we still need that human oversight, insight to gain that knowledge piece. It can spit back a ton of information because of the 2 first layers that we've always had in, well, I don't say we've always had the data side of it. We have started, hopefully just about everybody's using that interpretation piece of it, or that cognitive piece of it, or being able to parse that data that we have into some usable, tangible items that we can glean information from. But we still need our oversight of that to make it work, to make it run, to be able to interpret that data into something that we can use. AI is not real good about that yet. So with that, there's what we're using it for right now. We have machine learning. We're using it a lot in the virus sector side of things. It's looking for how a machine is being used and will notify if a deviation in that. If something unusual is happening onto a machine, it'll start sending notifications going, hey, something's different, something's wrong. And that's been around for, I don't know, 90 or 2017, 18, 19, it really started picking up steam. Everybody kind of jumped on it within, 20, 21, 22. Hopefully everybody is doing something with a virus package that is learning at this point, because they are by far way better than just something waiting for an infected data file to come in and then reacting to it. Hopefully some of these machine learning things will tip off, especially in the IT world, and it's being used that way. We're also starting to see it being used on some compliance models. So you can use AI to say, all right, I'm going to generate, I have all these deposits. These are the forms that I have. This is what's going on. Tell me if any of these are outside of that, what we need to have to be compliant. So there's some of those that are coming in. Risk management is another piece that we're kind of just starting to see. And maybe with that new FFIEC guidance, it will maybe step it up even a little bit more because they're trying to go away with the CAT tool and kind of, I'm guessing, going to NIST, even though they're not really saying they're going to NIST yet. But maybe that can be used there because NIST is going to be more data driven than it is system driven. So hopefully we'll start to see something pick up there, and it might make our life a little bit easier. And then we also see it on the loan side. Loan decision process. So you can put in all the information and it'll say, whether this is going to be a good loan and maybe give you a rate that you should be charging for that type of loan. That's been out here for a little while. I know of a few banks that are using that kind of decision process already. Which is fine. I mean, is it true AI? Sort of touching base on it. It's taking that data that we put in and is putting some kind of interpretation on it, or being able to parse that data and then being able to make a decision on it. It's not really a true decision process. It's just basically kind of based on elimination standards saying, hey, this could be a risky loan, this couldn't be a risky loan. So, that's been out there for a little while. And for the most part, it works. Is it going to get better? Yeah. We're kind of seeing AI go in waves. Somebody will make a big breakthrough and have, one LLM talk to another LLM and then able to parse decisions based on what both LLMs are doing, large language method, but models, but they're able to say, okay, now we have multiple systems talking, or multiple, think of a SIEM system. If you're in IT world, SIEM system is parsing data from all other systems and putting it all into one central hub and giving you statistics, really. Is it artificial intelligence? No, it's still really only those first two layers. Is it touching base on what that knowledge piece could be? Maybe there's potential there. Is it going to be, is it going to form full-on wisdom? No, not really. It's not making those decision processes for you and acting on it. It sort of does in maybe some virus cases, saying, hey, based on this, I'm going to lock this. Well, fine, that's just a reaction. It's not really knowledge. So yeah, we're far from, really having hell take over everything that we're doing. So, that's, I think we're okay yet. Do I think I'll see it in my lifetime? No, but I'm old. So, I probably won't. Now, do I think my kids will? I kind of doubt it. I think we're, Google being 25 years old and we're finally getting to a point where, interpretation is automatically just starting to come in, but it's basically just parsing. I mean, we're a long way from letting something make decisions for us. So, yeah, I don't think we're there yet. What I kind of would like to know is who out there is using AI or is specifically saying, no, we are not going to use AI and is specifically blocking it and how that's working. So if everybody wants to take that, I'll collect that information. We'll talk a little bit about it later. And then the other piece that I kind of want to talk a little bit more about is how it could be used and how I'm seeing it used out there in the world. Now, I have kind of a different aspect of, or the way of looking at how AI is used. I look at it from basically a fraud point of view more than anything else. And I see a ton of stuff coming up on language generators. That it's automatically, taking any foreign language, put it into whatever language you want to put it into, and it gives it a real feel to the verbiage. So we're starting to see a lot of, the old email frauds that we used to see from days gone by. You knew immediately it was a fraud. And it was some foreign from a foreign country that did not speak English, and we knew what it was because it just didn't really make sense. Not so much anymore. They've got these language generators that can automatically parse it in every which way. And on top of it, there's, real-time voices that they can throw right over the top of it that truly sound real. And you can actually, all you need is a snippet, so you can mimic anybody's voice as long as you've got some. If they can distinguish or they can pull the voice out of something, it'll pick up the patterns and the voice tones and automatically mimic who it is. Some of them are really good. There's been a bunch of case studies, and I'm watching, especially this election cycle, because there's so much fake stuff out there. It's not even funny, and people are not saying what people are saying. Some people are saying what people are saying, but for the most part, you don't really know what's real and what's not real anymore, because they are getting so good with that. That has kind of a distant to what my wife, and my wife is IT media technology at a school district, and she's been teaching on AI for a long time because kids have been using it to write papers and to write everything else. Now, if you've seen enough papers that are generated by AI, you can kind of say, no, that's not, this isn't the kid's language. This isn't how he would write. You know what's going on. And you can actually put it in to a generator and it'll spit back exactly where that verbiage came from. Now, that's on the children's side of it. She's been teaching the teachers, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's really kind of all it is a verbiage generator. But she's like, any note that you're sending home to the parents, you can write it exactly how you're feeling at that particular moment, put it in here, and then say, okay, make this nice, or make this clean, or make this what. So, I mean, she's like, I can't believe your child is such a brat in school. And if I had my way, he would stay home, and it will automatically rewrite it in the nicest way possible to make everybody feel good, but still get the message across that your child's acting up. Which I thought was really kind of funny. And I thought, boy, how many times would we like to write a letter to, some of our favorite customers going, you've got to be kidding me. I can't believe. And I thought, well, maybe it's got a purpose here in the banking world. We can start using it to clean up our letters that we're writing to customers, even though I haven't really seen any bad letters going out to customers that just don't state the facts. So I thought that was kind of fun. And then, just bringing AI into our everyday world. I mean, we all have smartphones. Show of hands, how many people have a smartwatch? Yeah. Um, Funny story, and I'll get back to that story in a little bit on a smartwatch, um, but we're starting to see AI pick up in that smart field. How many notice that, as you're browsing social media, you're starting to see ads based on stuff that you've talked about during the day. You didn't search it, you didn't do anything else, it's there. That's kind of intrusive, and that's borderlining on how it's getting that ad placed is based on speech. And I thought, "Ooh, okay, how is it always listening?" So that might be a topic for another conversation that we have on how Big Brother is always watching and who Big Brother really is. So I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but there's something there, just saying. But back on the smartphone watch, I recently took, we have friends that live in the Czech Republic, and their son is living with us for the next few months. And we have kind of our own hosted exchange program going between those two countries because my kids have studied over there and they stayed there. Anyways, I just recently took them out to Rocky Mountain National Park because they hadn't seen the Rocky Mountains and they wanted to. So loaded them all up on a truck and made the long truck drive out there, which they didn't really realize how big this country is, which is kind of funny. But we got out to Rocky Mountain National Park, and my daughter lives in Colorado, and they decided that they wanted to climb a mountain, and they wanted to climb one of the 14ers. Now, she being in Colorado for the last, I don't know, 7, 8 years, knows you don't just say one day you're going to go climb a 14er. So she found another mountain that was, I don't know, 12.9 or was still up there, and it's still really high, but was manageable. You didn't need clamp-ons and ice picks and everything else to make it past the ice shelf. So they started hiking. They took off in the morning. And they did make it up, and they made it back down, and then they hiked another trail up to another mountain lake. But her whole time, her watch was going off on her going, are you okay? This isn't normal. This isn't your normal pattern. You've never climbed. And this time it was, by that time they had climbed 14,000 or 4,000 feet above where they were. And her watch was really concerned. And we were joking about it all night then that, it's like, oh no, your watch thinks somebody stole your watch because that's not you. Well, it's not really artificial intelligence. All it is taking that data and applying information or applying the analytics side of it and coming up with going, that's not normal. And it basically kept asking her if she was okay. So I thought, well, that's actually kind of funny. Well, that spun into that conversation that night. And one of the kids that was from the Czech Republic is a computer science major, but his whole focus is on facial recognition software. And they're developing it right now where it's extremely cheap. It just uses whatever cameras that you can put on it. And for the most part, it's working, and it doesn't have the high-tech software behind the scenes running everything. And I thought, whoa, that's really kind of interesting if we're getting into facial recognition that everybody can afford. What would that do for customer service in a bank? I mean, even if you don't really know your customers, you know exactly who they are walking in before they even come up to a window or a CSR or come in for a loan. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting for the big banks. Not so interesting for us and, for the majority, us in the smaller community banks. We know our customers. So I thought, wow, all right, that's kind of an interesting use of it. But yeah, that's kind of where we're going now. Do I think, anything else? Well, AI has the potential to be, I don't know, try kind of transform many aspects of how we do business and how we're, outside of the business side, how we do everyday things. I don't think we're there yet. I think we're a long way from anything really getting developed. But I think it also depends on how we're going to use it as a society, what we would allow and what we won't allow. interestingly, California has got a bill, they have a bill right now that they're trying to push through that's all on the Safe and Secure Innovation for Frontier Artificial Intelligence Model Act, SB 1047. I thought, ooh, okay. I thought, all right, what kind of oversight are we actually looking for on this? And the bill basically, it's not for anybody developing it. So you have to be spending $100 million on development of AI, and it's really targeted only very few companies in the world that are really doing this right now. But it does give the Attorney General oversight on forcing audits and forcing transparency. But the interesting thing in this bill says if you're going to generate this type of thing that could cause this type of harm, you have to have a kill switch built into it. And I thought, well, how? How could you possibly have a kill switch built into it? I don't even know if that's even obtainable. If anybody knows the internet, how do you can't shut down the internet? That's just the way it is. Now, I thought, well, what's the ramifications of this? So if everybody uses this part of it and they're using just a little piece of it, and for some reason there's a kill switch in it, it's going to shut down a whole lot more than what you really wanted to shut down. But that's just an interesting bill. You might, if you're bored some night and you have to be bored, go look up SB 1047. It has merit, but it also kind of gets the government or lets you know that the government's really kind of thinking of this, going, hey, we can't just have an open ticket, because if this stuff does kind of come to fruition and we're working on it, we have to have some way of controlling it. And I thought, all right, well, that's a start. Do I think it's actually prosecutable? Probably not. I don't know how that's going to work, but so yeah, there's that going on. Now, back to the question, and I'm going to see how many people answered that one. I don't have that one. Do we have where do I see how many people voted? Renee?
They voted and it was pretty 50-50.
Really? Okay, for those 50% that says we don't allow AI, you probably are allowing AI and just don't know it. There's really, it's not the easiest thing to shut down just because there's so many different engines for it, and you can find it on embedded into websites that you don't really know is there. So yeah, and then I guess I didn't ask the follow-up question, but we should be developing an AI policy, whether we allow it or don't allow it. So there should be something, you should be developing some kind of a policy based on what you will allow, what you won't allow, who is allowed to use it, who's not allowed to use it. We're going to want something in place. And if nothing else, it gets you thinking about how AI could be used in your bank. And if you come blanket statement, say, hey, no, we're not allowing the use of AI, you might have applications running that are using it in the background and you just don't know it. So you have to get very specific in these policies. We will not use it for, generating, letters or how you could be using it. So yeah, keep that in mind as you're going forward. But yeah, that's kind of my high level overview of where AI is right now. Really kind of an interesting topic. There's a ton of webinars or podcasts on AI, and there's some daily podcasts that kind of keep everybody up to date on what's going on a day-to-day basis with AI, which is overkill and scary. So keep that in mind as you're going out there, just kind of researching stuff. But there is a ton of useful information out there. You just kind of have to, pop up an AI generator and just say, hey, how can AI be better for me? And it'll tell you. For the most part, AI generators are always kind of spinning everything in a positive light. You have to specifically ask for the negatives in an AI generator, which I think is kind of funny. But yeah, it's not going to tell you the bad things about it unless you really kind of dig in. Yeah, there's bad stuff. I see it a lot, but I also see we're in the very, very early infancies of this, and and what we're considered AI right now, we're really not AI yet. So keep that in mind. It's really just more enhanced analytics more than anything else. So with that, does anybody have questions? I almost hate to open this one up because I think there's going to be a flood of questions, but I will do my best. Nothing? Well, that's interesting. Well, as you get questions, or if you just want to talk through it, send me an email, Jay Tamborino, sorry, jt@minbankers.com. Happy to talk about this. This is kind of an exciting topic. I've got a couple other presentations that I'm doing on this over the course of the next few months. It was a big topic at this year's tech conference. Kind of very high level. We never really got into the weeds on it. I'm kind of wanting to get into the weeds a little bit to see how this is going to play out. But we'll see how many questions come in or if this is a topic we want to explore further down the road. So with that, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. If again, if you like this one, let Renee know and we'll continue on. Thanks.